All right, let's get started. I'd like to talk a little bit about the project and requirements. There'll be a document going out later today that I'm going to make available in Piazza and also on the portal. But I just wanted to go over real quick what the overall requirements of the project is. Now, if you choose to do your own project, whatever idea you might have, as long as you're within the guidelines of this of the requirements, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Right? You don't need to ask me, hey, how about this? How about that? Right? As long as you're within those guidelines, you can just go on and start working on whatever it is that you want to work on. Only if you want to do something different, right? Maybe you want to work on a different feature. You don't want to do a particular feature that I'm suggesting. We can negotiate. We can say, well, how about I do this other feature as opposed to what you're asking here? Okay. Then we can talk and say, oh yeah, that's a nice replacement from this other feature. Okay. But I think that the requirements that I give are fairly broad and general that should cover most of what you might want to do. Okay. It touches on several topics of interest that we're covering in this class, and gives you an opportunity to exercise those topics in your own project. Okay. So hopefully, if you have other things in mind, they would be an equivalent replacement for any other feature that you might want to work on. Okay. So here's the overall idea of the guidelines. First of all, you need to think of a particular domain, right? The domain might be books or toys or products or restaurants or recipes or some kind of sport. Whatever domain you choose, right? I believe a lot of them share fairly common ideas. Okay. For instance, they all share the fact that you'll need to create some kind of user management, right, where people can register, they can log in, have kind of like a private profile, right, where they manage their passwords, their personal information, right, regardless on whatever domain you might choose. Yes. Also, there should be some mechanism that allows you to interact with some third-party data source. Okay, there's tons of data sources out there that are free. Okay, Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Best Buy, Walmart. There's tons and tons of APIs that are out there, right? That you can query, and it gives you results right through an API. That's a great technique, and that I strongly suggest that you practice it, right, and you become familiar with it. It'll be great. Put in a resume. And so there's tons of APIs out there. Again, based on whatever domain you choose, right? So I believe the very first thing that you should do is to research, right, what APIs are out there, right, for the particular domain that interests you. Okay, and then once you find it, you should see what the limitations are or how to use it. That will guide you on the things that you can do. All right, maybe there's some information that they don't make available publicly, right? That maybe you need to pay for it, right? I would suggest you don't pay for anything. You just stick to whatever publicly available information is out there. Okay, but it might guide what are the limitations of your project. Okay, so the sooner you become aware of what these limitations are and what these APIs can do for you, right, the sooner you will know what it is that you can build. Yes, you don't want to think that you can do certain things and find out that halfway through the semester that the API doesn't allow you to do a whole bunch of things. Yes, so I would start researching that ASAP, right, very, very soon. You don't need to know how to use it necessarily just right away, but certainly can it do certain things that are somewhat required for the project. Okay, So using this API, you should be able to type a query somehow, and it responds with a collection of results that you might want to display in some kind of result set. You should be able to select any one of these results and look at the details, like a details page that has more information, more pictures, more whatever information about that one article, right? Or whether it's a recipe or a sports team or a team member or whatever it is, right? It will show you more details about that one, that entity. Okay, and then there should be some aspect of some kind of social networking feature where users can participate and interact and share some kind of information, right, amongst themselves about the particular entities that you're interacting with, right? And if a user is able to create any one of these relationships with these search items, right, there should be a history of what the user has done, right? If they've commented on an item, there should be a history of all the items that they've commented on, right? Or if they've bookmarked a particular product, or if they've, there should be a history of any relationships that a particular user has with the rest of the community, right? Either they're following somebody, right, or they added something into their shopping cart. Your application should maintain a history or stateful information about what is the current relationship between your user, that particular user, and other users and other items in the community. Make sense? Right? So here's something. Here's an example of what that might look like. So here's a user. They come to a home page. So there should be a home page, a landing page, right? That should be accessible for anybody, right? Whether you're logged in or not, whether we know who you are or we don't know who you are, right? There should be some landing page that has a little blurb about what this website is all about, right? Your website should explain what it's all about, right? A paragraph, 2 paragraphs, some marketing blurb, whatever, right? I should not guess what do I do, right? If you're Google, then yes, you could do that, right? You just put a search bar and that's it. You don't explain anything. We're not Google. When you get there, then you can then you can do certain things like that, right? So you can just type whatever you want. But for us to be able to get an idea of what it is all about, what we're doing, what are you asking me for? Explain a little bit. Explain what it is, what your website is about. Okay, in a little blurb, in a finished, in a nicely finished way. Okay. Once you're in the home page, either from the home page or perhaps in a separate page, you should be able to do a search, either perhaps from the header or because we went to a dedicated page and then you do a search here. You should be able to interact with the cloud search engine, or API, whatever API that you're using, and show the results here. So it might look something like you type something, you press on the search button. This goes out to the cloud, right? The cloud has its own database, right? Its own server. It does a query and it responds back with a collection, perhaps an array of objects, right? That we're going to use to render, right, some summary results. Maybe a thumbnail, maybe a title, maybe a short description, right? Maybe a price, right? Something very short, a summary, okay? Enough for the person to decide that, oh yes, that's what I want, right? And then they might click on a particular search result, and they would go maybe to a details page. Now this details page will have more information, right, about that particular item that you chose. Okay, it'll have more pictures, more information about the product or team member or car or whatever, recipe, book, whatever you choose, a movie, right? And you might use maybe a carousel where you can go left to right. You can have description, And other things that you might have here, you might have either comments or reviews, okay, content that is generated by the community, okay? And you might have folks that might have created a review and maybe their username, maybe another review, and then a username, okay? Me as a person who's come through here, I'm searching and I'm navigating, all throughout. Say I get here notice that I've gotten here without logging in, right? The system doesn't know who I am, right? It should only ask you to log in. The system should not force you to log in unless we need to know who you are, unless you need to do something that we need to attach to some identity, okay? So, for instance, if I want to post a post, I want to create a new review, well, we can't let you review unless we know who you are, right? So the system will challenge you with a username and password, or also would allow you to log in using Facebook or Google. You can log in with Google or Facebook, and once we know who you are, then we allow you to create the post or the review or the comment or whatever. Okay? Next time around that somebody looks at this item, right, they will see your review. Okay? From anywhere in the website, I should be able to click on a profile link everywhere, right? That navigates me to a profile page, right? From anywhere. In that profile page, if I'm logged in, I can see the profile page, right? I can see my entire profile page, including some public information and some private information. Yes, private information might include phone and email and things that I might not want others to see, but I can see, right? Me having logged in as this person, I can see myself, right? All the public information and also some private information. I can change anything I want, right? If instead, from the details page, I click on a user that is not me, right? I should be able to navigate to somebody's profile page, but it will be the public version of the profile page, right? So I shouldn't see things that the owner has said that is not public, right? I shouldn't be able to see any of the private information. Okay, whether if this is my profile or I'm visiting somebody else's profile, I should see here in the profile information that is related to me. Okay, for instance, I might have come here to this product or team or whatever it is, and I might have rated, or maybe I might have liked it, right? I like it, or thumbs up, or bookmarked it, or somehow created some relationship, right? Now the user is related to this product. Somehow I need to remember this, right? About this relationship, that this user likes that product. So I need to be able to list here in my profile. I need to list all the things that this user is related with, right? So if this is a particular product, P1, right? I should be able to list here P1, right? Either maybe as a list using a grid, or I might use something like this, like a summary, right? Well, of all the products that I have liked or disliked or commented or whatever. So over here, I should see all the relationships that this user has with other things in the system. Okay, relationships of this person with this product, or this person with other users, right? And for instance, if I just bookmarked it, I would see here the list of all bookmarks. If I created a comment, I should see a list of all my comments. Yes? What else? If I navigated to some user, say navigate to some user, right, and I'm seeing their profile, right, maybe I want to, bookmark that person, right? I want to follow that person. So on my profile, it would show all the folks that I'm following. Yes? And I should also see all the folks that are following me. Yes? right? So in the profile page, I should be able to see all the relationships that a user has with other things in the system. Make sense? Right? Now, some of this could be private, some of this could be public, right? Perhaps, my comments or my reviews are private, but maybe the people I'm following is public, right? So, for instance, if I navigate to somebody else's profile, right, and I click on somebody, a user that they're following, I should be able to navigate to that other person's profile. See that? Right, if I click on a product, right, that I've commented on or I liked or I bookmarked, I should be able to navigate back to the details page. Yes? Right? All right, about the data that we're displaying here. The data that we're displaying here, right, is dynamically generated. Right? Only very little of it do I need to store it locally in my database. Right? Notice that if I've never logged in, I wouldn't know what, if you interact or you like something, I wouldn't know who to relate it to because I don't know who you are, right? All this data would be dynamically generated from the cloud, right? When I search, I go to the cloud to search to see results. It comes back, and I dynamically render this page. If I click on a product and I go here, I might have an ID, right? ID 123, ID 123. This should be enough to go back to the cloud with the ID, right? And this would come back with the details of that product, right? And I would dynamically render all the details for that product. Yes? Well, half of it, right? These are the details that are coming from the cloud. All this other information, such as comments, reviews, like, not like, where is that? That's in the database. It's our database, right? It's not in the remote database. Right? So we need to make a relationship between our local database, our local MongoDB database, right, and the relationship of data that lives out there in the cloud. So half of the information will be here, and half of it will be remotely. Right? That data I can't do anything. I can only display it. It's typically just read only. Right? That I can just read and dynamically generate half of the page. The other half lives in my local database, right? And it's owned by whoever created it, right? So usually the original creator should be able to, delete a post or edit a post, right? If they own it, if they've done that post. And we're going to use the ID as a key, right? We'll use the same ID locally in our database to make the relationship between, hey, let me go fetch the remote data, and let me fetch the local data so I can dynamically generate this page. Make sense? Ever still with me? Right? So, also the profile obviously is stored locally in our database, right? But what we're not going to do is cache all this information that is already remotely. We're not going to cache it locally in our database, right? Anything that we can go fetch remotely will do. Right? Only a minimal piece of information we will capture, right? Such as the ID. That's really the only thing I really need, right? Right? Because I can always relate a user to some ID, right? And then the data of that ID lives elsewhere, right? A couple of things we are going to cache, right? For instance, notice this list over here. This list of all the products that I've liked, okay. Maybe I wanna be able to represent them by some thumbnail, right, and a small image, maybe even a title, okay. If I only store the ID locally, that means that I would have to, for each item, I would have to make a query to the remote database, remote cloud for every single thumbnail or title, or because I only have the ID. Yes. So to improve a little bit the performance, right, and not make this so chatty, right, they have to go back and forth, we are going to cache a couple of things, right, and that's your choice, what is that you're going to cache. But typically you're going to cache some thumbnail, some title information, right, enough that when I render this, it will be meaningful, right, and only when I click on it and I go back to the details page, right, I would then go out and fetch the information remotely to fill in all the details. Make sense? All right, everybody good? So with this in mind, notice that we only have what? The home page, the search, the details page. This would be kind of the search or the results page. Could be separate pages, or maybe the home could play as the search page and then a separate results page. You're free to move this around or implement it any which way you want. Okay, but the basic requirements are there. There doesn't need to be one single profile page. Maybe you want to split it up into different ones. You can maybe use tabs, right, or pills, or left-hand side navigation that you can jump around between, the people I'm following, the people that are following me. Here are all my articles. Here are all my, whatever how you want to split it. Okay, you can use your imagination there. Also, as well here, right, you can split it up any which way you want. Let's see. Everybody still with me? Right. So those are some of the general requirements. Let's look at it a little bit. What the some of the representation data modeling representations that you might need. Okay. So you're going to need a table, right, where you're going to represent the user, right? Table or collection, right? If using MongoDB or any other NoSQL database, then it will be a collection, a user collection. Okay. In this user collection, you'll have first name, last name, email, LinkedIn, or whatever information you might want to represent users. Okay. Then you're gonna have users be related to many other things, right? For instance, you might have users related to other users, right? A user following another user, right? So you might add here a follows collection or table, right? That creates a relationship between one particular user and another particular user, saying that this user is following this other user, right? You can use a mapping table, right, if you prefer, or if it's enough, you can have maybe an array, right, of all the IDs of users that a particular user is following. Okay, there's different ways of implementation, right? But nevertheless, we would capture it using this kind of UML diagram, right? Where you have one-to-many, one-to-many, right? Many-to-many relationship. Then you might have a user that might have relationship with domain objects, right? When I refer to domain objects, I mean objects of your particular domain, right? So if I say a domain object, an example might be a recipe. Another domain object might be a book, right? A domain object might be a team member, right? Or a car, or whatever it is that you choose as a domain. Okay, so now some of these domain objects. So here's your domain object. Some of these domain objects you might want to group them into more abstract domain objects, right? For instance, a particular team member might be grouped into a team, yes, or maybe if you're doing stocks, right? A particular stock might be grouped into a portfolio, yes. So you could have it's kind of like a container or kind of a more abstract object that is used for organizing, right, or collections of your domain objects, right? So you might have another domain object or a higher level domain object, right? Maybe this might be a category or a portfolio, right, or a playlist. A playlist, and then you might have songs, yes, or library of movies, yes. So you might have a relationship between a domain object, a high-level domain object, which is a collection, is comprised of a collection of other domain objects. Make sense? Right? And a user might have a direct relationship between a user and a particular high-level domain object. Right? Or you might want to have a relationship, I don't know if you need it, you might have a direction, a relationship directly with the domain object. That's up to you, right? You do have to have one of these. Right? You do. It is required that you have some form of grouping, right? If it's books, it could be some kind of your library, right? If it's products, it might be different categories, right? If it's a team, it might be if a team member, you might have teams, right? Some way of organizing it. Stocks, portfolios, right? And then you might have a particular relationship. Not this over here. You might have a user might have written a review or a comment, right, between the user and a particular domain object, right? A user might have written a review for a particular domain object, right? Okay. A user might have grouped the domain objects into a group, right? So this might be a library, right? This might be a portfolio, right? It might be a category, right? This might be a book, a recipe, right? This might be a team member, okay? This might be a song, a movie, right? And this is kind of like a collection of those. These are reviews, right? Okay, so what else? These domain objects you'll need to capture things about it, right? One of the things that you probably have to capture is some identifier. Some identifier that uniquely identifies this particular object, right? Typically, these identifiers will be given to you by the API, right? If you search for movies or a song or whatever it is that you're searching from your remote API, the remote API will provide you with some unique identifier. Okay? You will use this unique identifier to create instances of these things into your database whenever you actually need to. If you're doing a search and it comes back with thousands of songs, there's no need to store anything, right? Until you have to create some relationship, right? Until somebody says, "Ooh, I like this song." Now you have to remember that this person likes this song. Then you need to make an instance in the database, right? But if there's people just browsing around and searching and perusing, there's no need to store anything in the database, right? Only things we need to remember we store locally in our database. Yes? Okay. Other things you might want to store here are such as things like maybe a title, right? Maybe a thumbnail, image, maybe as a URL to an image. No need to upload images. Well, sorry, let me rephrase that. If you have a feature in your project where a user is uploading images and things like that, those images don't go in the database, right? Do not insert as a blob or as a binary content into the database. Instead, you'll be uploading it into some a public folder, right? And then from the database, you will make a reference to that object, right? As or some kind of ID or some kind of unique identifier that will always allow you to reconstruct where the location of that image is. All right? Don't actually insert it into the database. All right? We'll do uploads a little later, right? And I'll give you plenty of examples of doing this. But here's an overall overarching architecture of what the domain object might look like. Okay. What else? All right. Also, for when you do submit this, right, towards the end of the semester, I'll ask you to record a short video, maybe a 10, 15, 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes, please, right, of you demoing your project, right? And in that video, you should highlight, right, all the really cool things that you did, making sure that the TAs or myself are not overlooking anything, that you did some really cool feature. It's your moment to sell yourself and say, hey, look at all these great things I did. All right. So at least one API. Most of you typically use more than just one API, right? We'll use maybe Google places, or Yelp, right, or Google Maps, and we'll use 2 or 3 or 4 different APIs and aggregate the results, right, to make the experience that much nicer. But at least one API. Okay. Let's see. All right. So yeah, I'll make available this formally as a requirements document. Take a look at it. Right. If you don't understand it, something, just let me know. Any questions so far? For
load balance, so let's say you have
yep.
your site is just a lot. So say
yep.
So shifts any authentication done by tokens expired sections are
Okay. Right, so the question is about load balancing and using round robin, several instances of the server in a round robin. I guess one of them might have failed, or maybe you have certain ones that might switch depending on the load balance, might redirect across but so typically you have a shared resource, right, either on the file system, right, or shared memory, where either the state of the server is being copied to a particular file system that they both share, right? That they could pick up either when one fails, the other one could, you could put them as friends of each other. Yeah, right, and that would be part of what would be replicated into the file system, right? And yeah, so you would replicate the entire state, right, of that either as a virtual machine, right, onto this, so that the other could just pick it up and read it. Typically, these would be unique tokens, right? So they would not collide with the other tokens that the other server might have, right? And then the any traffic that used to go to the original machine would now be redirected to the other machine, right? Same timeout would apply, right? So if the session was still alive, the timeouts would still run.
So the server itself.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We talked about the project. Any questions about this project? Anything? All set? All right. As we progress, we'll certainly chat some more about the project, and we can discuss a little further. Again, if you see that you had something else in mind, some other feature that doesn't look like I have a category for you to give you credit, you can certainly negotiate, and we can think of replacing one requirement for another. Right? Yes.
I asked a question about React before we can.
Sorry.
I asked a question about React before we can.
Sure. If you feel comfortable with playing around with React, feel free to play with React. Yes. All right. I'm gonna switch here.